This is Electric Universe Geology Earth News. This is Missoula, Montana. This is the home of the Missoula floods. This area here during glaciation periods would form an ice dam according to standard geology. This is 12 to 13,000 years ago. And it would back up the Clark Fork. That's what this is. And that would back up all of this area to the east with 2,000 feet of water because it would be 2,000 feet high, this ice dam. And then eventually the dam would break 40 to 70 times and it would flood eastern Washington and Oregon. And they know it must have done this because they can see all the different layers of sediment. And what else could possibly cause all of these layers of sediment? But there's another answer, especially if you've looked at the videos from Colorado State University, which I've posted earlier, which I'll have links to underneath of this video, directly underneath, that show that during flooding, catastrophic flooding, which the creationists who did the Colorado State work think was the Great Flood of Noah. But if you have catastrophic flooding, at the bottom of it, you have material sorting itself out, putting carbonate on the top, clay in the middle, sand on the bottom. If there's an interruption to the flow in the water, you can get a new layer of carbonate clay sand on top of the original carbonate clay sand. You can get a wedding cake effect very rapidly. This could cause what's seen in eastern Washington and Oregon. You don't need a Missoula flood to explain this. You have a catastrophic version. And the 12,000 year date is very misleading because I believe it's based on uniformitarianism. It's radiometrics and plasma events, high energy plasma events, speed up radioactive decay. So anything that has a radiometric clock is going to look older if it's been exposed to high energy plasma discharge. Ice cores are no good as a clock. Airplanes from World War II crashed in Greenland. They dug them back up 50, 60 years later, and it appeared that they had been buried for 1,000 years because there was 1,000 ice core layers. Apparently the ice core layers happen with every storm. It's not a 1 year deal. So ice cores are no good in terms of clock. They don't tell you the age of things. Creationists have a very good website exposing the flaws in radiometrics and ice cores and all the other standard measuring devices. I believe that the ice age was probably caused by the events described in Worlds in Collision, where you have heated water, oceans and rivers boiling, people jumping into the water and dying from being scalded by the hot water, creating evaporation. You have water spouts that might be taking water up into the sky, electrical events that might be electrically evaporating water. At the same time, the air is full of dust, preventing sunlight from getting to the surface, so the surface is very cold. So you have lots of precipitation. At the same time, you have a cold surface. Instant ice age, not caused by prolonged cold. Prolonged cold cools the ocean, causing less evaporation, less ice sheet. You need heat and cold air. You've got it all. Once the catastrophe's over, this starts to melt. Our glaciers are still melting today from what I think were these relatively recent catastrophes, caused not 12,000 years ago, but 3,500, give or take a couple hundred years. So you don't need Missoula. All you need is a flood from the equator with a few interruptions of the flow of the water during this process, creating as many layers of sediment as are required. It's not a difficult deal. So I don't think Missoula has anything to do with anything. I think it's cockamamie idea. The poor geologists, once again, were desperate and they had to come up with something, so they pulled that one out of their butt. It's a pattern. Thank you.